right? Because of a thinking that I'm better. My culture is better. My nation is better. Do you know anyone who has that attitude toward another nation? Bermudians? How might that unfold and display itself in Bermuda? Any examples of how that attitude or behavior might show itself, Sister Brown? Talk to us. Hey?
America.
America? Okay, so America, and in terms of the rest of the world. Yeah, that we really have it. Everyone's got to be Americanized. Yeah. Nothing better than democracy, and this is it. You know, everything from the World Cup, right, to America's Cup. Right, so the belief, hey?
Even when the film of the Olympics is different,
Yeah.
US reporters,
Right.
biased.
Okay, so there is a tendency for some nations to think themselves superior to others. What about Bermudians in terms of certain persons from the West Indian culture? Probably less so now, but in former times, did you ever notice certain ways that Bermudians may speak about persons from West Indian culture? What are some derogatory terms they may use? Jump up. Jiggerfoot, right? Now, these are terms that are used to refer to another group. And are we usually thinking that they were better than us?
No, we are better.
Oh, it's the other way around, right? There's something about them that is less desirable. Something about them, and we sort of group them together and really put ourselves up as really being, got an edge on it. Yeah? And ethnocentrism, right? That's what we're saying. Is that a good thing or bad thing? It's a bad thing. Why is it bad?
Because we are superior, we are better than anybody.
No, what? Exactly. Your ethnicity does not make you superior. It just makes you different. And granted, you may bring some value to the table, but guess what? Others bring value too.
Right.
Right? So no matter what you may be looking at that you think yourself to bring of greater value, guaranteed, if you look closely enough, you can find something on the other side that will be preferred in terms of most people. So why rather than think of ourselves because of any localized identity that we value, to think ourselves more superior, just be thankful that you have something to offer to the world. Okay, what about them? Yeah, believing. Yeah, yeah, right. And because of that same, that's it. That's where you see it goes. So thanks for bringing the example. The ultimate, the end for that kind of thinking is genocide. Yeah, and you're going to wipe out another nation because you are so much better than they that their presence is contaminating.
But it happens today, even with the Muslims.
They are beneath you. Yes.
Even with the Muslims.
Yes. Okay.
No wonder.
Do you go? Same. Same. That's the same thinking. So this term, ethnocentrism, is a reality. Is a reality, and it is a disadvantage to the human experience. Right? And so we would not want to cultivate the thinking, the attitudes or behavior that really reveals our ethnocentric views. Right? Ethnocentrism. What about prejudice? What's that? Hey? But what is prejudice?
It's like you're jealous of somebody else.
Okay, you're jealous.
I don't like somebody.
Yeah, and why?
And not only that, but it could be because of the color of their skin.
Okay, color of your skin, that's a part of it too, yeah? Yeah?
More than the next person.
Right? Okay, so you're really saying, I don't like your group. I'm prejudiced against your group. I have an adverse relationship of thinking about you. I have a negative association with you. You are not a good group.
It has to be a group, an individual.
Yes, exactly, right? But here's the term here, an aversion or hostile attitude toward members of a group simply because of group membership. That's all. You belong to a gang from Somerset.
Right.
And I belong to one from town. Therefore, no matter what you bring to the table is not worth anything.
Right.
As a matter of fact, your life's not worth anything. And I'm going to take you out if you cross me. You see, simple as that. Gang mentality is a prejudice mentality. Right? Because there's no good reason for having this type of hostile views against someone else who is probably your cousin.
That's right.
Right? But this sense of not belonging to the group of my gang is of greater value to me than you belonging to the group of my family tie. Right? So you might be my brother or sister in the flesh, but that's not going to outweigh my familiarity and my allegiance to my gang. Right? So that's a significant, serious mind attitude that is displayed simply because of the group that you belong to. Nothing else. Right? Nothing else. My group or you're out. And I'm going to take you out if you're not in.
It's amazing how part of the family is in a group and some is not, like a brother, two brothers.
Yeah.
One's in a group,
Right.
the gang, and the other one's not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the brothers can go against one of these.
Right.
And they live in
Yeah.
the same house.
Live in the same house.
What you're looking at is tension, conflict, disharmony, ultimate death. Because this is counterproductive to wholesome living in society. And yet, in order to bridge the gap and get across that, somehow we need to enter that world and that mindset, build a relationship of love, an understanding, and gradually become a bridge to move persons who are in a worldview that is evidently destructive, right, to themselves and to others, and to move them from that space to a space that's more holistic and more healthy, wholesome, right? Prejudice. So prejudice, the negative reaction is developed and acted out without having had direct contact or facts about the individuals. I don't even need to know anything else. The only thing I need to know is that you don't belong to my group. And you belong to that group.
Right.
That's it.
And you can't go this country,
Yeah.
that country, or that parish, or you can't come to this parish.
No.
And they look for you.
Exactly.
And also the children, some children develop prejudice, not even having the ability to think for themselves because
Ah.
their parents
Right.
impose their
Look at
beliefs
that.
on them. And so innocent children
Yeah.
grow up being
Look at
prejudiced,
that.
not even
Exactly.
having,
It's
options.
irrational.
Right.
But it's learned.
Right.
It's learned behavior. It's learned behavior, directly or implicitly, by your environment and the choices that are made around you. You learn how to behave, and your prejudiced behavior has been taught.
Couldn't we put that on the KKK?
Yes, it's all about, it's different
Yeah.
group. Your group versus another group. And your behavior is some that sometimes you don't even notice it. My wife had a friend, good friend, work friend, who was Caucasian, and they had a beautiful relation. But reality is what it is, and there were some situations that my wife had shared to her friends of what prejudice and racism looks like. And she couldn't see it. She says, well, listen, we're going to go take a walk in Hamilton, and I'll guarantee you, when your white friends talk to you, they're going to ignore me. Yeah, of course not. Not going to happen. And she lived to see the other side of the story.
Yeah.
Just by walking through town, and she said, I would have never known. You don't even know your behavior. You just act in a certain way because that's the way you act. And it's normal to you. And not until it's pointed out and you actually see it, then you are forced to trace its origin and need now to decide what will you do with it. Right? So yes, children are taught, they are nurtured, and they behave in ways that are counterproductive sometimes because of a negative learning experience.
I tell you
Yeah.
how that played out. Being at the set that, I tell you how it played out. She may walked out with her Caucasian friend. Yes, so her other friends introduce your wife to them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And after that, it's like kind of blind eye to
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you point it out, it will change.
yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't intended
No.
to create a notice of it.
Right.
But the internal message was, you really don't deserve that kind of attention that I give to my white friend.
Right.
Because you're not a part of our group.
Exactly.
Yeah? So it's not even a sense that I hate you or a conscious negative disassociation. It's just happened.
Yeah. Yes,
It happens because it's so much ingrained and you don't even know. Here's her friend, didn't even know it existed.
Right.
Because in her heart,
Yeah.
she thought everything was fine with everybody.
Yeah.
And not until it was brought out. And she saw it in a very concrete way that she realized there's a problem.
She saw it in her own eyes.
Yeah, there really is a problem here.
And then this
Yeah.
will evolve to bullying.
Yes.
Children are bullied because of prejudices, as well as adults. They
Yeah.
have issues where they're trying to address that in the workplace.
Uh-huh.
Bullying,
Yeah.
as well as on the playground, children can be cruel.
Very
So
cruel, yeah.
If they're prejudiced,
There's prejudice,
they'll
yeah.
see the bullying acted
It's it,
out.
it's it.
Yeah.
Your group, my group.
Mhm.
Yeah? We're on different spaces. And I attach value to those spaces that are different, and mine is better than yours. Right? That's what we're really saying. So here are some negative, some understanding attitudes and behavior so that we can consciously check them if we see it unfolding. But is there a danger, however, in drawing a conclusion about a person's motive because of observing their behavior? Okay, what's the danger? Judgment. Okay, I could be judgmental. I could say, because of what I just saw, you are a racist to the core. You hate me because of my color. I don't hate you. I'll do anything. But why would you behave like that if you didn't hate me? Well, I behaved that way because that's the way I was taught to behave.
Because then that person
And I was never
will
checked.
too.
You see, they may or may not
When they take
intentionally be perpetuating racism. But they are just following through with what's naturally their reality. They have been nurtured this way, they have never been checked, and they therefore display behavior that is consistent with what they have been taught is right. And the thing I was taught is that blacks are inferior to whites. There's racism, a superiority of the race. And it's not always direct and intentional. Yeah? But sometimes it is. So we cannot judge. All we can do is identify behavior and challenge the behavior.
Right. And
You know, what does that mean? I noticed that when I came by, there was this constant conversation between the two of you. I was here. I never really received your eye contact. Is there any particular reason that happened?
that's like something.
Yeah. Right? So you lovingly assume the best. Assume that people who have behavior or speeches that are unacceptable, assume that they really can't help themselves, that they don't know any better,
So-
that they've never really come to grips with the reality that this is not the best way to operate.
So how
And
do you
therefore, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation so that I can at least point out what I've observed. And then you can help me to understand what your behavior meant. You see? So, and now you may affirm it by continued behavior that says, I don't even deserve to talk to you. I don't need to say anything to you. Who are you anyway? So now you know it's going to another level. You see? Right? And then your confrontation also probably may move at a different level.
Right.
Right? But we do not become a problem because we see one.
Right.
Right? We can help to correct or minimize the problem by taking the higher step.
Right.
Yeah? And the reality is that a person who has been a subject of abuse and of ridicule or victimization at least have developed a sense of feeling of what that makes you, you know. So we are in a better position to help someone who's never been there. Yeah, you really are. Because they've never been there, never needed to be there, don't even want to go there. But a loving conversation may take them. And again, now here, my wife and her friend. Because of a conversation, because of a behavior, open up a new level of awareness. So conversation is a good place to start to work through differences that are driven by prejudice, right? That really is illogical. And if the premise is a good foundation of building relation, then we would earn up. You know, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that I am like that. You see? And so then a conversation can lead to the best friendship.
Yeah.
Right? And so the bridges. Got to go both sides. Both sides. And walk in someone else's shoes. Yes.
I was going to give an example of when I got my granddaughter from foster care. When I got her, she was so emotional like state that when I put her into the school that I put her in, it was like the whole school was just against her because she was different.
Yeah.
You know, people can have an
Oh, my.
attitude towards you because you're different.
Yes, that's it.
And because she was so quiet and kept to herself and wanted to just read her books,
Yeah.
she never socialized. She in the home where she was, she never had that.
Yes.
So she didn't know nothing about socializing or being with
Yes.
people or having friends
Right.
or nothing like that. So when I got her into this school, it was like the whole school was a gangster.
Yep, and that's
So-
bullying in school.
Yes,
It
and I
happens
see
over
it.
and over, right?
So every time she came home and complained, I started going to the school every day to see for myself.
Yeah.
And I saw how they were treating her.
Oh, my.
And like one game was on the field, they were learning a game, and the children was learning how to do hockey or something, and they would have that turn and they'll come right back and stand in front of her. And then the other person will go and help them again, and they'll come right back and stand in front of her.
Yeah.
I said, excuse me, sir, but do you see what's happening here?
Yeah, there
So
you go.
then
Yeah.
it was like, I had to go tell the principal, look, is there any way you could talk to the school about respect
Yes.
and how to get along and
Yeah.
things like that?
Yeah.
And she says, why, what's the problem? I said, well, I see my granddaughter having a problem. She's not making no friends because everybody's chewing her out. I said,
Mhm.
even on the netball team, they're just like passing her by like she doesn't even exist. And all like that. I said, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
She said, well, what's wrong with her? I said, no, not what's wrong with
Look at
her.
that, look at
Can
that.
you please teach
Yes.
respect
That's right.
and attitude
There you go.
problems?
There you go. That's what we're dealing with right
And
here.
I never got it.
That's
never
it.
got
That's right
and
there.
I'm so thankful for the school she goes to now.
Yeah.
She's getting honor rolls every
Beautiful. People are different.
year. They're different.
Different is not wrong and right.
That's
Yes,
such.
and it happens with children. Now, my children were blessed to be in a developing country in their formative years, right? Because they just learn to mingle with people and the simplicity of life. Coming back now, then they were confronted with a different mindset, because the mindset in a very developed country where materialism is a very high value is that we are measured by what we have.
That's right.
We are measured by the group that we hang with. And so our social group, our material assets, and other kind of criteria establishes our group identity.
Yeah.
And since you don't bring that to the table, you are the outsider. And you are made to feel like you are less than others. And it causes fights. It causes tension, it causes struggle, bullying.
And it breaks down a person's
Exactly, and
self-esteem.
this is what we're dealing with. Prejudice. Understanding the right kind of attitude and the behavior toward people. And not simply saying because you are of a group. I'm now characterizing. It brings us to another question, another definition, and that's stereotyping.
I just
Yes,
want
and we
to-
want to go there.
I asked you with regards to the conversation. With the whole, I guess, dynamics in Bermuda with racism, how then would you approach this issue of conversation if, say for instance, the white community in general, not everyone, but in general, they may feel that this is not really a problem, but every time you want to conversate about it, every time you want to bring up this race issue, it seems like you may have the problem. and
Yeah,
not forgiving.
yeah.
So how do you bridge that gap,
Yeah.
whether it's racism, whether it's church issues? Or,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
for one party.
I think the conversation has to be concretized. There needs to be examples where behavior is leading you to your conclusion. So I'm raising a question. You're saying it's not a problem. Please explain to me that behavior, that behavior, that behavior. When I see this, that suggests to me that we have a problem of race. Explain. So when you have concrete examples that a person who is rational and truly wanting to do the right thing They have to see, like the example I shared with my wife. It was too concrete. You can't deny it. Right? You could theoretically say that I don't believe it. That doesn't happen. But when you actually have a concrete example that you observe yourself, now you're going to have to explain that. And there's no logical way you can explain, why three people in a conversation and all eyes are only directed to one. Something's wrong. That something is not right. Yeah, please explain to me that behavior. Right? So that becomes now a new revelation.
Right. And even
History.
subtle stuff, like for instance,
History.
I guess, what they call it, in the workplace, where it's subtle, I have it on the tip of my tongue, something racism, or it's the social.
Institutional
Yes,
racism. Yeah, institutional
right,
racism.
there's
Yeah.
things that aren't blatant,
Yeah.
but you notice there's attitudes, etc. That is very difficult.
But you have to come, for example, in the workplace, even in Bermuda statistics, it's changed over time, but it's still the same. I'm trying to remember his name now. Oh, friend of mine too. Yeah, but it's a statistician, and he did some studies, and this was of economics, and comparing wealth in Bermuda, and was able to indicate very clearly with statistics of the disparity in economic privilege in the workplace. Salary now. We're talking about people who have equal qualifications and at positions of equal worth, but the whites received greater pay than the blacks. And where blacks have higher education than the whites, but receive less pay in the same organization. Right? So in this whole question of the disparity, it's documented. Documented facts showing it's happened over and over again. So it's not just a one-off, but it's a pattern. So that suggests institutional racism. That should suggest that the absence of equal access to opportunity, economic opportunity, is just a matter of employment. So things of that nature say to certain ones, hey, this is a problem. And there are those who accept it to be a problem, and even whites who see it to be a problem. There are some who say, just continue it. Yeah, so that is one example. So it is only by example, but if a person deep down in their heart wants to continue what they want, then nothing is going to change that. Even the facts are not going to change it, right? But at least the facts give justification for the conclusion that this is racism, right? Because it's all given. Then gender. Gender is another issue, right? That also there is inequity simply based on your gender. And males certainly have an advantage over females. And so that's another reality, right? So the problem is not just racism or sexism. It's the whole question of privilege and diversity and the attitudes and behavior that we have toward different groups, right? Prejudice, stereotype, what's that?
And then there's another group too.
Yes?
Sometimes you may get a foreigner coming in, and then the boss may say to the person that has that position, oh, well, I want you to train that person.
Yeah.
And then when you look,
Oh, yes,
that person
yes,
is
yeah,
out,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
person
yeah,
is
it
in.
happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Gotta do that.
inequity and injustice that operates. Yeah, so it's a real world, it's a sinful world, and we are now heightening our awareness to these differences that create conflict in different settings and that are contributing factors to the effectiveness or the ineffectiveness of our evangelistic witness. All right, that's our point. Stereotype, what is that? Labeling. Yeah.
Because maybe an outright lie, or maybe just because of the behavior of a few.
Okay, and it might be a little more than a few, but the problem is that you have generalized. You're saying that everybody is like that. Have I heard all Bermudians are lazy?
Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah?
Or our young people
Yeah.
are lazy.
Right? Our young people are lazy.
Or they're all in drugs.
Yeah. Okay, so there's all. This language.
That's leaving nobody else.
No, that's including everybody else. Everybody's included now. So as soon as I see a young person, automatically I say, you must be. You get it?
Right.
Right. So stereotyping, how does that unplay? How is it unfurled in society?
I feel to myself, a lot of times people don't take the time to get to know. other
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Don't even want to do that, yeah.
They're so quick to judge.
Yes,
They just don't know the person.
exactly.
A lot of times if they just take that step
Yeah,
to get to talk to that person.
Right,
that's
that's
where
right.
they're coming from.
there you
A
go.
lot of times it wouldn't be so much diversity.
Exactly. And so as we travel across culture and go to different countries, let us not go with our preconceived ideas, of what everybody is like. Yeah? Because some people may have displayed a certain behavior or attitude. So often the negative behavior of one member is exaggerated and attributed to all members of that group. Anxiety, the opposition of one's basic values, whether directly or indirectly, whether actively or passively, causes anxiety and tension. This is often evident in the actions taken against people who hold different beliefs from our own. Right? And so be mindful when you are in the presence of someone and then these feelings begin to just rise up within you. Right? That you ever have persons that you don't want to talk to? You don't want them to be in your presence. And as soon as they show up, what do? Tighten up. Right? Shut down. Hey?
What she doing here?
What's she doing? Yeah, there you go. Right? And all those evil thoughts. And with them come the feelings. Right? And they're not good ones. Right? Because you say, if only I had a chance, I'll just take this knife and drive it right in her. Now that's really going to another level. You never got those thoughts? You don't want to go that far. Right? You depart, okay? But even if you simply just say, I'm going, and you ignore the person, and you fail to talk to them, and you're both Christian. Can you imagine? You both are Christian.
Why are you leaving? You see,
Yeah. Right? That's all. All of a sudden now, this happy-go-lucky person is all turned up, lips looking down, and for what? No one said anything, but simply someone showed up. Someone came in your space, and there's tension, there is anxiety, there is conflict.
Sometimes you just can't handle some people's spirit.
You can't handle their spirit. Yeah, and what is it? Why is it? What causes you not to handle their spirit?
Just overbearing.
They're overbearing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, keep taking it a little further. Yeah. What else?
I don't want to say this, but they're not like me.
The bottom line. They're not like me, right? And and I'm a better person than them for sure. You know that? Yeah. Okay, and they're not like me. They're not a good person, Angela. So they deserve to have me. I'm going. You see? Hey? Because you're so wise. You can handle that internal anxiety. No one would know on the outside, but your body is screaming out, says, please, stop. Right? And you wouldn't even listen to your body. You just fix your face. But this is what people do. And guess who they call themselves?
Christians.
And what if they have another special name they give to the kind of Christian they are? Seventh-day Adventist Christians too. Yeah. Yes.
People don't want to face that kind of thing because, first of all, you have to have the best approach. And if you can't have the best approach, if you approach that person without having the best approach, you're going to trigger them more.
Okay. Now, what are you saying in that case? What are you saying? If I don't have the right approach, but you just fly off the handle, what is that telling me about you?
You're not a good Christian. You're not a Christian at all.
Okay, I'm not a Christian because I didn't have the right approach. But what about you? You're reacting to my unchristian approach.
That's double.
Yes, double whammy. Right? So one wrong doesn't deserve another. Right? And if someone else is unchristian, then we can be Christian.
But you know
We can
what?
be Christian.
We can be the Christians.
Yeah.
It's all about character building.
Yes.
It's all about, and a lot of times Jesus places those people right there because he wants to change our character
Yeah.
into his character.
There you go.
Because that's the only thing we're gonna
We have to be willing to be changed. Notice now, one thing that is a constant about culture is change. So if we are of a culture and an identity that is unchristian, then let Christ change us. Right? So if others are displaying unchristian behavior, then let us be the Christians. Yeah. So yeah, if I understand that you are behaving that way because you have not come to the cross-cultural evangelism class. But I have been there. Right? So I'm going to take a higher step.
Yep.
And I'm going to say, I understand, yeah. Yeah, you just may not know how to deal with difference. And since you are different from me, you are behaving the way you are. But I understand that difference does not need to create that kind of reaction. Yeah? I just accept the fact that you are different, and yep, you're behaving that way. You may not have arrived in a level of development in that area. And if I could be of help to you by first loving you and sharing that even though your behavior is unaccepted, you are loved, then maybe the conversation will go long enough that all that tension and anxiety in you may be diminished to a level that we can have a reasonable conversation. And yeah, and when we get to that reasonable conversation, you say, you know, by the way, I was just wondering. You know, when you had that certain kind of reaction, I was just wondering what it meant. You see, because what I heard was this. You know, what was that? Oh, yeah, I understand. You see, but now you have a relationship. You have a relationship that has allowed you to have hard conversation, but in a pleasant way, so that it turns into a productive relation. And the person you could not stand is your best friend. Isn't that beautiful? That is evangelizing across culture. That's getting on the bridge, getting over that hurdle. There's differences, there's tensions that created this distance, and allowing unity and harmony to happen. Because I was willing to take the extra step.
I got through that. I was invited to pastor a fabulous church once upon a time. And I invited my sister invited her friends. So the girl gang, I was going to church. At the end of the service, the wife of the person I work with, my co-worker, she stood at the door, and as I'm going out the door, she crosses me off and she says, you better make up your mind what you're doing, because God doesn't like what you're doing. I said, well, what am I doing? No, God doesn't like what you're doing. I said, but tell me, what am I doing? Let's sit down and talk. What are we talking about? Well, God doesn't like what you're doing. So the pastor came down. He said, Graham, what's wrong? I said, well, she's telling me God doesn't like what I'm doing. I'm trying to find out what I'm not doing. So my sister came and said, what's wrong, Graham? I said, I don't know. So apparently, she had some fixation in her hair that I was going with her husband.
Okay.
She was newly married, did not know her husband was my cousin.
Oh, my. How a lack of knowledge.
Luckily, I stayed calm.
Yes.
Because I couldn't figure out what she was talking about.
Look at that.
I had to come and say, I did say, but let's sit down and find out what am I doing. Because I was on the verge of something in the Bible.
Right. Now, what was her reaction when she discovered the truth?
Well, she was so quiet.
Yes, felt ashamed of herself.
She was embarrassed.
Embarrassed, right? Knowledge can be the source of bringing about change. I just didn't know. You see? But now I have been given an opportunity to explain myself, and knowledge has become our freedom release.
Right, but also we can do our turnarounds because of what somebody's told me about you.
Yes.
And then when you're coming, I see that I act different. You're wondering why, like she done, wondering why you're acting. I'm act different like toward you than before. I completely changed. And I changed because of what somebody's told me.
Look at that.
about you.
So you allow some information to define someone else.
Yes, I got to do that too.
Yes.
You know what?
Yeah.
When people tell me something about somebody else, I don't want to hear it. It goes in this ear and out this ear.
Yes.
Until I see it or hear
There
it.
you go. Have you
And
heard?
I continue to love that person, to be that person, until I know otherwise.
Have you heard of a big word beginning with the letter G and ending with what, the letter P?
Gossip?
Interesting word, isn't it? Isn't it an interesting word? How people will say something and you will take it.
Take it and run.
take it and run.
But you don't know if it's truth or not.
You don't know, and it's
Leave it alone.
juicy that way sometimes, you
Leave it
know.
alone.
Yeah, and it creates tension
But even
and
this
conflict.
doesn't need to carry on.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yes, right.
So it's getting back to how do we deal with differences? Even if it's true, it's a behavior that may not have been acceptable, may not be a good thing, but does that warrant creating a greater distance? Should it not lead one who is a loving Christian to find a way how to bridge the gap? So that that which is negative can be minimized? If it's a truth, that it can be changed? If it's a lie, it can be disclaimed? You see? So our attitude, all driven by our purpose and our mission, will determine how we deal with differences. All right? Good. Anxiety, we talked about. Comfort with the familiar. Yeah? We are drawn to the familiar. This includes others who share similar values and beliefs and interests. Right? We like to be with people who are like us. There's a term used about sociological term is a fact. So it's in writing. The white flight. Have you ever heard that term?
No.
White flight. Right? It's a sociological phenomena in areas that has been identified that if too many blacks come into a white community, then whites may leave that community.
And that's happened.
Yes.
That has happened.
That's right. That's
That
Yeah.
has happened.
Okay. Right? So it's a fact.
Yes.
It's a fact, and it is an indicator of racism
Yes.
in that regard, and it's been documented enough times. So it's not just an opinion, right? It's in concrete, and it comes as an example of how we can find ourselves comfortable with people who are like us and uncomfortable with people who are not like us, right? There was a presentation given at Hamilton Church, and there was a certain person who was giving the presentation, and what was being said, it just boiled up the heat. The heat was so hot, I felt it. And I didn't just feel it for myself, I felt it for the whole congregation. I said, how could this be? How could this be in this day and age that would be said in that manner? And so I spoke to it. And others after it thanked me for speaking to it because somewhat it diffused the heat that was about to explode. Yeah? And it all centered on race. And it was, in a sense, a stereotype of a comment that had been given about blacks. You know, all blacks do certain things. All blacks do this. All blacks, all blacks. And it said to the blacks, you have not arrived. You don't live in this century. You can actually say that. I mean, you really can say that in this predominantly black community and just think it's okay.
I think I was,
Yeah. So really,
I was at Hamilton Church that day.
yeah. So here was an example of how easy it is for us to be actually comfortable in a mindset that is informed by error, stereotype, and the over sense of being comfortable with one's own group and the total discomfort with another. Yeah. So yes, these are realities. And as we talk about understanding cultural differences, we need to be mindful of how real are the attitudes and the behavior of persons that has been the result of a culturalization over the years that displays themselves in negative ways, right? And no matter what side you're on, we are all guilty. We are all guilty of creating barriers because of differences. Some of our tolerance level is a little longer than others, right? But we all have to face the struggle of breaking down barriers and allowing bridges to bring people who are different together, to live together in harmony.
Can there be cultures within a culture, different cultures within
Yes.
a culture?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's deep.
Oh, yeah. Which really says that you got to really drill down.
Yeah.
And what it comes down to is that you really have to accept people. Every person is deserving of individual respect.
Yes.
Right? It's not my culture. It's not even my family. It's not my belief. It's not anything. I am an individual.
Right, and it's love.
It's love. Love people. And if we have a platform of loving people, it doesn't matter what your differences are.
That's right.
Because your differences are not conditioning my behavior. Right? Now, your behavior may limit the extent to which we can relate, or even the fact of our agreement. But it does not condition my love. Right? Unconditional love, because you are a human person who Christ placed ultimate value on by dying for you.
And we all need love, don't
And we all need love.
Yes. Let me show you something that where love can be destroyed. A girl married a guy in the church. After she married him, he went home and told her he had AIDS.
Huh?
Yeah, she married him, and then he told her he had AIDS. So she went home that Sabbath afternoon and put him right out on the street. The rain was coming. When I found out about it the next Sabbath, I told him I had a spare room and he could take that room. Now this boy, I knew from a little child that I was homeless. Well, my mama died, and I didn't know where to go. And I was in the Imperial Hotel there on Church Street. And I saw that boy running around every night, all running around. And I found out later on, as I didn't see him anymore, he was homeless. So now here he is, a grown man. He's out on the street, and I feel it's my time to help him now. But do you know when the church heard about me taking him in, that week that they heard, first call, oh man, I heard the boy's down your house. He's got AIDS, you know. It's right behind. Man, I hope you're not living there. I heard you're living there. The boy's got AIDS, you know. Next call, man, I hope you're not there. The boy, he's got AIDS, you know. All I'm saying is yeah, right? Well, I'm going to tell you, that broke my heart. That broke my heart as Christians.
That's right.
It broke my heart. I didn't go to, I think I was out of church for about 5 years. I don't know if you remember when I used to be the last one in the door. Every church I went, I was the last one in the door, the first one out. Because if this is how Christians act, I didn't want nobody to know me. Don't ask me my name, and I don't want to know you.
Why were you
And I
going to
done
church?
that for 5 years.
Why were you going to church if you didn't want to go in to know you?
Because I was already baptized into the church.
That's the only reason.
And that was the only reason. And I did not give up.
Yeah.
Just because of them, I did
right.
not give up.
Yeah.
I was newly in the church,
Yeah.
did not know what I know now.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did not know that I didn't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
All I had to do was be with Jesus.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then it took, I can never forget this.
Yeah,
It
took
took
us
my
around.
phone to go down
Yeah.
for me to call the telephone company to come fix my line,
Yeah.
sending me a Christian person,
Yeah.
not of my denomination.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he was talking, and saying the things I needed to hear.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
what got me back in church.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Your
I'm
story.
telling you.
Yeah, your story, the pain. And can you imagine how many people like you have been
And
hurt?
this is why I said we gotta stop it.
Yeah.
Church,
People
stop
just
it.
got
Yeah.
stay in their lane, that's all.
Stop it.
Yes, we have to love people.
Stop
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay in their lane, man.
No, love goes
It's a
all
love.
lanes.
It's a love.
goes
Exactly. Thank
all
you.
lanes.
Thank you. It's a bridge everybody needs to get. And if you're on the other side of the bridge,
Everybody got to worry about self.
yeah. Invest. Invest.
It broke my heart.
Yeah.
It broke it.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, but thank God that God fixed it.
Everybody got to worry about
Yeah,
self.
He brought you back.
Amen.
God is good.
Yes.
What we are dealing with here is real. What we are dealing with is the way we relate to one another and how the way we relate hinders the advance of the gospel or advances it. And how many times has our attitude and our behavior hindered the gospel?
That's
How
why
many
when I see
people have
somebody
left
in
the church
I don't have to
because of the lack of love?
I go and I hug them and I welcome them and I encourage them to
Yeah.
come back again. And
Yeah.
he knows that I'm missing. I said, where's your mama? I haven't seen her before. Go tell your mama, Aunt Gwen said, come back to church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is it. We want to be loving Christians, right? A perception. Perception is another key word. We can just skip right over that one here. Yeah, just flip over there. We can go right over there. What we target? Perception. You see that? However, many are challenged in their interaction because of biases and or stereotypes. Perception shapes our view of the world. What is perception and how is it formed?
How we look at things.
How we look at things, how is it formed? In our mind and how? What? Your experiences, your thoughts. Yeah, and there's thoughts generated from where?
From what you see, from what you hear,
Yeah, our experiences, right?
what you see, you hear.
Yep. Right, so there's nurture. Number one is childhood, is your nurture. The environment of your home, your family, where you were born, what life was like in that whole surrounding, your neighborhood, places you go, all that, your education. Yeah, so your experience shapes your perception. And your perception shapes the way you view the world and the conclusions you draw. Are all your perceptions correct?
No.
No, but are they correct for you?
Yes.
So they say perception is reality. So you have perception, I have perception, our perceptions clash. Who's right? Yeah, each in our own mind, but we are social beings. We don't just live in our own mind. We live in a world of relationships, which means now we have to check our perception. Yeah, check it. See, hey, is this a good one? What has informed it? And is the basis of it being formed acceptable to me? Can I reasonably say I can hold on to this one? Right? So if I have a perception about you that may not be right, and I have a conversation with you about my perception, and I share with you why I believe what I believe. Oh, that's what you thought. No, this is what it meant. Yeah, this is not my boyfriend, this is my cousin. Yeah, you see? So we trace it. So we have to check the conversation. You know, just recently, there was someone who was very close, you know, to a certain person in the church. And then there was someone who sort of concluded that, you know, I don't know if she should go with that guy, you know. I think she should be, you know. And eventually what we found out? They were cousins.
Yeah, I went through
They were cousins. But someone was beginning to develop an opinion
Yes.
and a perception of them and their behavior, and actually looking into their behavior with negative eyes because of a conclusion that was unfounded.
They fixed in their own mind.
They fixed in their own mind, right? So perception is our reality. But don't allow your perception to lead you to draw a conclusion
Which is wrong.
until you have checked the assumption. Right? You've got to check it. Check it. Find out the facts that are leading you to your conclusion, to see whether or not your conclusion is right or wrong, and where it needs to be adjusted.
I used to.
Don't assume.
When I first got into the church, I used to invite everybody to church. I invite. And I go to church every day with a different man. Because it seemed like, oh, the guy, you feel like exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm going to church every day with a different guy. And I said, when people staring at me. And then one day, I just happened to get a girl, but she was an alcoholic. But I took her anyhow. And
Yeah.
we stayed down the back. We were singing to the Lord. Just having a good. And everybody's like this here. You know.
Oh,
And we were
my
enjoying
goodness.
ourselves.
Yeah.
But people, they like to judge.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah.
study. Judging not that you be judged. but
Right,
judging
right,
that
right.
You shall be judged. Stop it.
That's got to stop it. Judging's got to stop. Right?
Also,
Yeah.
the author we're talking about is even more difficult in a small community.
Yes, it
Because
is.
everybody is sometimes into
Yeah.
business. There's a small town mentality.
Right.
And so all of these issues are already heightened
Yeah.
in a small community.
But do you know where it helps us?
And
Because we have reached a point of greater maturity as a Christian, we rise above their conclusions.
That's right.
And we actually feel somewhat sorry for them.
Yes.
For them to think the way they did and the assumptions, because we understand
Yes.
that they are just misguided.
Yes.
So I don't need to perpetuate those anxieties anymore.
No.
Those tensions, I could be at peace. And really say, if only they knew. If only they knew. Yeah. Yeah.
the thing is, people really don't have the tools
Yeah.
of how to approach it, how to deal with it. And so I think that's critical
Right.
that we talk about it.
That's right.
As a community,
Tell them
as
come
a
to
church.
cross-cultural evangelism class.
My brother.
Yes, right.
And then y'all telling me no.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Yes, 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 yes. Take time to get the right knowledge.
That's right.
Right? Love people enough to respect them.
Right.
Believe that people really are doing the best they can with the knowledge they have. And even if it's not acceptable to us, there's a reason why they're where they are.
Right.
Give them time. Jesus gives us time. Be patient, be loving, be caring, be positive, and always give the benefit of the doubt. Even if we discover that our assumption was correct and they are wrong, still love them. Right? They still need salvation. I don't agree. I don't think your way is the right way and a good way, but I still love you. I'm praying for you. You know, but let us allow growth to be our determining factor. Here's just a flip back from right across from perception. You have who am I? It's a good exercise. Take a look at yourself. Right? Let's take a couple of minutes today. Take 3 minutes and fill this out. And it's a personal assessment. So you can just actually write down what are some of religious influences. Right? You may be an Adventist, but you may have some other religious background. Yeah? So put those down. What are some major social influences that impact you? This is self-assessment, and it's taking a look at yourself from multiple factors that help to shape culture. It sort of helps to shape who you are. Yeah? So we're looking at multiple factors that make you who you are. Know who you are. That's the question. That's the bottom line. And understand the fact that you are different because of these combinations of factors. And to accept yourself. Really. Even those things that are unacceptable or you wish were changed, at least admit that's who I am. My experience has helped me to be here. If I can change it, I'm going to do some changing. If I can't, then there's some things I will live with. But I'm not going to kill myself. I will not allow my anxieties and tensions and anxieties to be so high that I demean my own worth. No, I'm rising above that. I have a limitation. I accept that, but that doesn't define me. I have things that are bigger that define me, and the biggest one is Jesus. Oh, my. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Right? So we have a good sense of worth because our worth is rooted in the Savior. And this allows us to ride above those negative differences in us, right? That we don't like. We wish we're different, but we can't change the past. And there are some things will stay until Jesus changes us in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, right? But until then, I'm going to rejoice and celebrate those positive things about me, and I'm going to work on those things that I can improve on. I may get some education formally, or I may even have some less informal. I may come to Waves program and get some new insights and skills. May never go to college, but that's all right. Waves can keep me on the sea. Right?
Also, I think we even look at difficulties or differences or challenges as a negative thing, but it actually sometimes propels people into the purpose.
Yeah.
So, for instance, people who were brought up in a single-parent home, they can now relate to single parents.
Yeah.
People who were
Yes.
Orphans
Yep.
at a young age may be able to foster children because they have a desire and a passion for that.
Right.
So some of these so-called
That's
challenges
right.
or negative things are actually like the cross-cultural evangelism.
Yeah.
We can reach people with
Beautiful,
that experience.
beautiful. And that is so true.
Yes.
If you look at many major contributions in life came out of an experience.
Yes.
Martin Luther King can be the man that he was because he lived the life that he lived.
Yes.
Yeah, he was there.
Yes.
He went through it.
Yes.
Gandhi, right? And the major impact that he made on society. And you notice other great contributions in life grow out of experience.
Yes.
And as painful and as hurtful some things are in life, they really become the catalyst for our growth.
Yes. Yes.
And we look back and ask, where did I make major steps in growth? It was associated with pain.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so old pain is not a bad thing. Ladies, how do you feel when you deliver? Deliver that baby.
Yes.
Oh, my. I can't even go there. Can't go there with you. Right? Okay, but the pain produced life. And what a joy it is to be able to hold a newborn in your arms. Yeah? So pain is not bad. Pain becomes necessary in this world of sin in order for us to grow.
A lot of our hymns that we sing come from pain.
Oh my. Yes. Yes, experience.
Yes.
Experience makes us who we are. Right? So, yep, differences, challenges, shortcomings in our life. We can ride above them. Some we have to live with. Paul said, Lord, take away this thorn out of my flesh. 3 times I prayed. God said, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to give you enough grace. He says, my grace is sufficient. Yep, that's how now I'll glorify my weakness. Because when I'm weak, then am I strong. So my greatest strength is found when I turn it over to Jesus. Right? If he allows me to have it, then it's okay. And he will allow it to be a stepping stone to my growth and a source of my ministry. I can minister to others with power because I've been there. And I'm still there. I'm going through it now. I'm struggling. So we are together in this. Right? And we're speaking the same language.
Yes.
Yeah. Crossing the bridge. That's what we're talking about. Yes. We want to be able to go on the other side of the bridge and move with others. And pain is a way that we can journey with others. Right? So it's not all bad. And our differences, and even the painful ones, don't let them crush you. Right? But don't ignore them either. Because you are who you are because of them. Yeah. But you're a better person because you've learned how to add value to that which is strong and how to build on that which is weak and how to accept that which I cannot change. And it's all possible through the blood. So we give God the glory.
I just want to just give a little small testimony on the Lord Simple Disability in 2014 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, that was like, devastation. But when I went for my mammogram and they told me I could either have an ultrasound then or come back, I said, no. Trying to wrap my head around it, I said, no, we're going to do this now. I'm not waiting. We're going to do this today, you know. But pouring out my heart to Jesus, letting him know exactly how I felt, and that if he would help me, because he's the greatest physician of all, to use people that he knows that can help me, as far as like surgery is concerned, as far as chemo is concerned, as far as radiation is concerned. And I'm going to tell you, when I pulled out my heart to Jesus, and when I told him exactly how I felt, everything fell into place.
Yes.
One behind everything. Even before I had surgery, I started just praising and thanking him. And I hadn't even had surgery, but I knew that the Lord was going to bring me through. And he did. But through that journey, God was letting me know I'm here. Because he used different people. The surgeon, when I went for my follow-up, he said to me, and I knew this was the Lord. He said to me, he says, look, he says, it was a success. He said, but we didn't find any cancer in your lymph nodes. He said, well, we took them out too. And in my mind, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, because I knew that was the Lord. What happens is that cancer cells can hide. And they could have hit in my lymph nodes and not know it, and not know it. But God knew, and I just want to praise him and thank him. Because through that experience, and I'm telling my story, and I'll keep on telling it. You know, and it's made me stronger in Jesus. It's made me to have more faith in him and to trust him in everything. Because through that experience, God was teaching me, give it all to me. Trust me, because when you pray that prayer, believe that the Lord can and will bring you through. And he did.
Praise God.
I was afraid through all of it, but I still walked through that door, and every time I walked through that door was a blessing on the other side.
Look at that.
So, yes.
God is good. Thank God. Yes, he can bring us through struggles. Let's just continue with the perceptions. We're going to go down to comparing cultural norms and values. Do you see that? Comparing cultural norms and values. Here's something you could take a look at. Yeah, beginning right over here. Okay? And what this is bringing out is how different groups relate to different realities. And for example, a sense of self and space. In the mainstream American culture, informal handshake. Right? In some other cultures, very formal handshake, hugs, bows, handshakes. All right? Communication and language. In America, explicit, direct communication, emphasis on content, meaning is found in words. Other cultures, implicit, indirect communication, emphasis is on context, meaning is found around words. Now that's a difference, right? Because people are not saying what they really mean.
That's commercial.
Yeah, and if you are actually basing your conclusions on what you hear them say, you have totally missed it.
That's right.
Because you're thinking of a mainstream American way of culture. That's why. But if you were in a different culture who thinks between the lines, they would automatically get the message. But you are totally lost. You're lost because you only think the way you think. And now you're trying to reach a person cross culture. So now you're coming and having your evangelistic meeting, you're talking to people, and they're smiling, and then they're not doing what you thought they should do. Right? Because you thought the smiling and everything was consent. And the reality is, no, they're nowhere near that. Right? But you haven't tuned into their world of thinking. You see how the challenge can be for evangelism. If you find yourself being in the midst of a group that are behaving and thinking totally different from you, and you are assuming that they are thinking the way you think, you're on a different page.
Yep.
So you need to take time to study culture. And you need to ask yourself, which group am I working with here? And these simple ones here can be just indicators of how the difference can show themselves. Dress and appearance. In America, what do you find? Other cultures? Ah, okay. What about food and eating habits? And? Now this is very important because food becomes the basis of relationship building. In a culture, certainly in a culture where there is great intimacy and great communal life, food is the base.
Everybody goes, let's go out to dinner.
Yeah, you can go out. You are going to, everything can happen around the table. Yeah.
Conversations and everything.
Right? So the good and the bad. The funerals, the weddings, and everything in between. Right? Social life. Very high, yes. Okay, is it a little too strong? Yeah, because someone just reduced the, for us here so we can please everyone. These differences, you see. It's not wrong or right. It's just some like the ear and some don't, that's all. Right, yeah. So we give and take, right? Yeah. You're going to sleep?
You better sleep on you.
Right. Look at that. So everybody needs to have a little something, right? And right now, Angela wants some warmth. Right, so we turn it off. Yeah.
You can actually use it to enhance your ministry.
Yeah.
So if you know a culture loves food,
Yes.
try to invite them to social gatherings and get them comfortable.
Right, that's right. And maybe rather than even having a meal at the church, maybe having a meal in a setting where everyone feels less threatened.
Right.
Right? You know, and they undress. There's a time, take for example, you're talking about youth culture. Dressing down as opposed to just being very formal. Right? And some may say, well, how can you do that? This is the Sabbath. What can you do? No time. When in fact the rightness or the wrongness is not about your traditional expectation. It's about reaching the group that you're working with and what makes them comfortable and allows you to witness to them more effectively. So dress eating, all are factors in cross-cultural evangelism. What about time?
And just to add to that, not to, because some people will take that and say, well, are you saying you're bringing the standard down? But it's not about standard, it's about what's appropriate. And so if it doesn't short circuit or, I guess, have an issue of God's word,
Yes.
then it's still part of the
That's
movement.
right.
Because some people would take it to the extreme and say, well, are we saying that you can let anything go?
Right.
We're not saying that.
Right, exactly. And we need to know what is right and wrong,
Yeah.
and what has become simply normative for you, which is your tradition.
Right.
And tradition is a part of culture. And tradition is not necessarily right and wrong, only when it is in direct conflict with God's word. Right? But everything about our traditions is not directly from God's word. Where do you find, put a pulpit in the center of the church and preach behind it? Where do you find that in the Bible?
I haven't seen it in the Bible.
It's not there.
That's why I haven't
Right?
seen it.
And we could pretty much look at a whole lot of things that we do in our forms. Now, they are great forms. We've established them for order and for comfort, but they in and of themselves are not right and wrong. Right? But they do mean things to us. And they communicate meaning to the group that has attached meaning to it. That's why there's a conflict in the minds of people when you shift it. But if we are healthy, objective outlook, then we can discuss it. The reason why we are changing this is because of this. Right? And we understand some would prefer it be this way, but this is why we are doing it, and we are thinking this is going to help us to really accomplish our mission better. Yes, this worked well up until now, but this is being changed because we have a different audience, and we are trying to accomplish the same purpose, but in a different way. Right? So we now make choices about all the kinds of elements of culture that we will maintain or change for the purpose of achieving mission. So mission drives our choices and our action. Our purpose is more important than the application of a principle. Yeah, change the application if the principle is being maintained and if the change is going to advance the mission.
What you're saying kind of relates to the sermon that we had yesterday. And some of the folk kind of felt that what the preacher was saying is for us to compromise our standards in order to let the youth come to church and still wear their earrings, wear their short dresses and different things. We're compromising God's standard.
Yeah.
I gave an example as to when I came into church. I think I was even baptized and I had a chain that I flat out refused to take off. But nobody in church ever approached me and said, you need to take that off. When I was comfortable with my relationship with God, I took it off myself. And I think a lot of us who have been in the church for a while forget where we came from.
Yes, yeah.
And we need to stop and reflect and remember what it was like for us when we first came in the church, because we weren't always doing, and we still don't do everything right.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But we do need to make some adjustments if we want to evangelize. As the world changes, we need to change our methods.
That's
of evangelizing.
Methods is the word.
And
Yeah.
some of us aren't ready to do that.
Exactly. Our mission doesn't change. Our message doesn't change, but our methods change. Yeah? And the application of principles will vary from culture to culture or from time to time, but even within a given culture. Right?
Pastor?
Yes.
It's the best scripture like evangelism. He that ministers is wise.
Yes.
That's scripture.
That's right.
He that
Exactly.
ministers, yes.
That's correct. And that wisdom is going to show itself in respectful ways and accommodating differences. Yeah? Accommodating differences and focusing on mission. Focusing and on message so that they bring about the change. Yes?
Like, especially with younger people, you know, suit and tie.
Yeah.
That sometimes puts up a barrier.
Yes.
You know, between.
Yes,
people
that
and
is
younger
correct.
people. So just, you know, realizing that you're not compromising.
Uh-huh.
But it's just bringing
That's right.
down
It's
this
not
barrier.
compromising principle.
Yeah.
right? But is adapting applications of principles, right, to reach a given audience. Yeah. Time and time consciousness. Linear and exact time consciousness, a value on promptness. Time is money, as America. Elastic and relative time consciousness, time spent on enjoyment of relationships. In my experience in cross-cultural ministry, and many have found it to be so, time is not that important. Right? You may say people just shooting the breeze or just passing away time. But no, it's important. The relationships are important. It's what happens in time. Right? But a Western culture is being on time. Doesn't matter if I don't have a right relationship with you or not. But you're there on time, I'm here on time, the program's going to start on time, finish on time, we have a great program. Right? We can have total poor relationship with each other. I hate you, you hate me, but we didn't show that in public. But it's okay because we were on time. Right? And we got it done on time. But that's not what other cultures value. For other cultures, when the person of importance shows up, that's when the event begins. So you may announce a time, this event will start 3 o'clock, but it may start 4. Right? But when who's who is present, it's all good. And everyone's assembled and the work is getting done. So time is not as important in many developing countries as we make it to be in a Western culture. And you'll be totally frustrated if you leave our Western way of thinking and enter into that culture and expect everything to function according to your time clock. Right? So some missionaries will just don't make it. They can't make it. Too frustrated. The change is too culture shock. Yeah. Yeah, you can't handle this one here.
You heard
Yeah.
the saying? BPT?
Yes, black people's time. Right. Yeah. Stereotype, right? Yeah. All black people, no black person makes time. Right? That's a stereotype. Right? But because we see there's a less desire maybe in a culture that is more relational, with a focus on time, as it is for another, we tend to adapt certain stereotypes, certain generalizations, right? Yes.
So, as a pastor, using your wisdom, and say, for instance, before service begins, the participants who go in the rostrum may come aside for prayer before they go in the rostrum.
Right.
Now, as a pastor, using your wisdom and just the Holy Spirit leading you, if there is conflict between maybe 1 or 2 people, before they go on the rostrum, the congregation is waiting. How would you handle that, knowing that you have a time factor, as well as the relationship is critical, as well as the Holy Spirit moving on those who will participate? How do you balance that out without either extreme?
Yeah, well, you pray for wisdom. Make the best choice you make.
So would you stop? I'm saying, would you
stop the program? You have to ask what's the best good, because it's not just the 2 of them. It's a whole congregation that you're ministering to, right? And you have a responsibility for that whole. But maybe you were just doing enough to just get them over the hurdle, and even suggest maybe after the service I'd like to have a little talk. Let's talk about it a little more after. Right? But right now we have a congregation who's waiting on us. And for the glory of God, let's just put that one on pause. Put it on par. Right? Let's go forward for Christ's sake. And let's move forward. So the Spirit will lead and guide us, but we can't solve every problem. And we can't solve every problem every time it arises.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was just looking at the time factor when we were using this example as to the reality of what really happens.
You have
people
to
trying to get to church, how things sometimes go crazy.
Yes.
And then at the same time, you have a purpose.
Yeah.
And the mission is not about the individuals, but
right, as a collective. You have to balance it all. Yeah. And then in one culture, you may make one decision, in another culture, you make another.
Yeah.
Right, because you know the thinking of the persons. But time is just being highlighted as a factor in cross-cultural evangelism. Yeah, just the way an attitude toward time can increase your tension and anxiety or maintain calm when you see differences. Yeah, but if your mind is not adjusting to even the fact that there are people who think differently about time, you're setting yourself up for a lot of anxiety, right? And you're going to leave mission service quicker than you thought. You came and thought you changed the world, but the world changed you. And you went right back home.
Yeah. Long church services, it may be frustrating for people who aren't used to that.
Yeah.
Versus people who say this was too short.
That's it, yeah. There's a balancing. A lot goes on. Okay, relationships, family, and friends. What do we find mainstream American culture?
Focus on you, family, responsibility,
And self-value on you.
Other cultures?
Loyalty and responsibility to change.
Interesting. So loyalty and respect are so valuable,
Yes.
right? That can cost you your life if you disrespect someone who's a senior, right? And behave in a way that is demeaning. Yeah? And you say, hey, one person against another. No, it's not. This is a very significant person in our community. You just don't do that. You see, so understanding is so important. Yeah, values and norms. Individualism, right? That's an American thinking. And other cultures? Group orientation.
Conformity, preference for harmony.
Yeah. Okay, so you're dealing with an American influence thinking of you just work hard, you make it as an individual, and you just go for it, right? You do it all you learn. Just fight on, and you just make it to the top,
Keep pushing.
right? And you deserve to get what you work for, right? Very individualistic. But other cultures, very group focused. We move as a group and as a society. Yeah, you win one, you win them all. So if you win one who the others are rejecting, then the whole nation, the whole community rejects you. So there's greater loss for someone who is in a group that is a very strong social knit, and you step outside of the group by becoming a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, right? And they disown you, right? This is a big thing here, right? So the social group focus as opposed to the individual focus is what we're looking at here.
I read a book called When Things Fall Apart. It was about an African man coming to America to get educated. And he met a lady, American, and they were both in the same university. And her whole thing was get her degree, get herself a job, and live her life. His whole thing was about going back into his village
Yeah.
and helping them.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, there you go. And that creates some, if you can complement or get around that, they cause separation. Yeah, major difference, right? So our thinking, our worldview we're looking at, our cultural identity. So understanding where people are is so important.
Also, that's why it's important when people are making that decision to accept Christ. It's difficult if they come from a group-oriented community because they may be rejected, and that move to accept Christ as in the Christian religion or Christian denomination versus, say, for instance, Muslim, that is a major move. So it's not as easy as we would in the
No, it's very difficult.
Western world would see it.
That's right. And what must we do to accommodate that challenge?
Provide a family. For
Exactly. Right? We must provide family.
Yes.
And we can't provide it if we're not loving and caring and respectful and understanding and available. Right? So we need to nurture and practice what it means to be a community of faith so that the family of God becomes now their family. And they are not alone and they are not without support. And by the way, when we talk about Adventist evangelism, our most effective evangelism is with people who we know, who we relate to. Family, friends, relationship. These are the ones who tend to come into our church quicker in an evangelistic reaping than those who don't know us, have no connection with us, and they just hear doctrine. Right? People don't live with doctrine. They live with people. Yeah? Doctrine may help to shape their thinking, But if they can't feel it in flesh and blood, then they may say, yeah, but I love you guys, I'm from the distance. I love your message, but I can't join you. I like my company. I like my church. I love my people. And really, you don't offer that. Yeah? But now if we offer the complete package of a true message that is substantive, that is rooted in reality, true to the word, end time, and our lifestyle and our warmth and our caring and our acceptance is so powerful, who can resist us? Yeah? Who can resist us? Because we are the loving Christians who God has called in this end time. Right? Values and norms, beliefs and attitudes. Okay? Egalitarian challenging of authority. Individuals control their destiny. Gender equity. Yeah? As compared to and contrasted against hierarchical, respect for authority. Yeah. Yeah. So different. So the very family can choose your bride. Because this is a communal affair, and those of greater years and wisdom know best. Isn't that quite different from a setting where you just go to look for your own spouse? Not saying that everyone is chosen, but it's within cultures that have this social norm of the group influence and the wider value of the whole than the individual that shapes the way we live and behave and make decisions.
Is that why that they take kids 9 years old and give them to the old man? They used to do that, give them to the old man, so when they get older, 13 or 14, this old man can marry this young girl?
Yes, it's all a part of how, some cultures, because of their tradition and other reasons that they make, but there's a greater say in the union of couples by the group or the family rather than the individual. Mental processes and learning style. Okay, even the way we learn, linear, logical, sequential, problem-solving focus. Lateral, holistic, simultaneous accepting of life's difficulties. Different worldview, isn't it?
Yes.
Different way of thinking. So we think that the way we think is the right way to think. And it's only right to us because that's all we know.
That's right.
Right? But there are others who think differently. Everyone, others think differently. So we have to find the way they think to be able to enter their world, to be able to bring about change. Mental processes, learning style, work habits and practices. Emphasis on tasks, rewards based on individual achievement. Work has intrinsic value. Emphasis on relationships, rewards based on seniority. Relationships, work is a necessity of life. You got a feel of how culture impacts living. When we come to language, and
didn't God introduce work at Garden of Eden?
Yes, he did. Oh yeah. Okay, but how we relate to it is what makes differences. Just the way we refer to people can be respectful or disrespectful. Yeah? Just the name we give them. All right? For example, Caucasian. Yeah, you may use the term, but what does it mean to someone who is hearing it, who is of the race that you're referring to? Right? It's not necessarily going to be well received. So, don't use the word Anglo. Use terms like European American, white people, hyphenated name indicating national origin, Italian American, etc. So the idea is to be very specific. You're not lumping them all into one category, right? Because they do have some sub-identities. And the more you understand the sub-identity and relate at that level, the greater respect they would have for you. You cared about me enough to do understand that I am of a given subgroup. I'm not just a generalized identity. What about Spanish ancestry?
Make sure that you know the national origin before signing a name.
And what are some of the names? Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Chileans, Yeah.
Mexican American.
Can you see a difference here? with just jumping and putting everyone together and saying one thing, and then looking at them specifically and knowing exactly where they come from and showing that you are at least educated enough to know that people are different. Right? Yeah. Even in Bermuda. You know, we all live in Bermuda, but some come from down the country, some up the country. Right? You see? We have our differences too. And the St. David's Islanders, you see? And so everybody has their uniqueness even within the common area.
So Latinas and Latinos are the same?
Latinos, yes. Male, female. Yeah. Right? Okay? American Indians.
Indians.
Uh-huh. But is that good enough?
No. Like you said, St. David.
Yes, yes. And what are some of the terms more acceptable?
American Indians,
Yeah.
Native American, and Navajo.
Okay. What about Asians?
Minorities.
Oh, my. Right? Just put them all in one group. Right? As if they all came from the same country. Yeah. Everything speak exactly the same language. It's just one group. Asian Americans, Koreans, Japanese, right? And then African Americans.
Negro minorities.
Yeah. And
African Americans,
yeah.
Caribbean Americans, and black people.
Do you get it? Okay? So this helps us to, yes, way we refer to people. Another key area of cross-cultural evangelism is language. Right? When I went to Cameroon, on my first Sabbath there was a gathering. Everyone was different groups, and there was I had to preach. I had just come from Togo. I've been 5 months learning how to speak French, and I decided that I'm going to preach my first sermon in French. Now, not that I believed that I was fluent enough, that I could really make this thing go and everything would be just fine. But I said, if I'm going to serve the people and they speak most in French, then I think I should be able to speak French. And I can begin to make connection. But I didn't tell the president. That's what I was going to do. I didn't tell him that until I got there. And when I told him, oh my good, anxiety, you talking about anxiety and tension, he began word for me, right?
Say the wrong word.
Oh yeah, because he just knows it's not possible for this to happen. But I preached in French. I got a simple service. I spoke about the second coming of Christ, and I had done my preparation, and I knew they were with me because of their response along the way. I said that encouraged me. That even though it was poor, and I didn't even assume that everything was exact and right, but I wanted to communicate. And it made an impact. And it gave a natural connect between me and the people. Right?
You could speak their language.
I spoke their language. This course, by the way, Cross-Cultural Evangelism, in my light school of evangelism, the topic of the course is Speak My Language. Right? That's the name of the course. Same thing. Because the language, why would language be so important in cross-cultural evangelism?
Because you're together.
Yeah, people identify with it through their language. When you speak your language, you reach their heart. Yeah? You reach them. You actually came down to my level to talk my language. Right? So speaking language. Now, English and French were the official languages of Cameroon, but there are multiple dialects, 300 plus, 200 to 300.
Wow.
Yeah, so I couldn't go that far, right? But at least at the level of the official languages, and French was more present of the 10 provinces, 7 French, 3 say English. So that was a message. You can speak that language, then you're with us.
But you had enough. They knew that you had enough respect.
Yeah.
For them that you took time to learn their language, you talked to them.
Exactly. And that's it. To be able to reach people across culture, you must know their language. You got to speak their language. So literally, you have to understand their language or have someone who is translating you into the language and using it as an analogy. You have to understand the way they think, the way they behave, their cultures, and the things that make them who they are. And as we are able to reach them where they are, we are able to bridge and lead them to Christ. so that he can fulfill their greater light. So here are some rules now of translators. When we are using a translator because we are preaching or teaching or ministering across culture and we need that help, right, to bridge that gap. Okay, just look at it. What are the 7 rules? Yeah, I want to review what our message is, because is it easy, is it automatic that everything you say is going to be translatable?
No. But you have to make sure that it's translating exactly what you're saying.
So it's the message, it's the thought.
How are you supposed to know that what is the same?
Well, you're going to have to trust. You're going to have to trust. Sometimes they don't.
Exactly that.
I was in Haiti in March, and I was talking with a group, pastor in the group, explaining the method and what we were doing. And the person who translated me, I mentioned something about 13. There were 12 lessons, 12 in course. And he said 13. But because I knew French, I immediately went right into French and gave them the right answer. And so then they just smiled because they realized I picked up on an error. Okay? But if you don't know that, then you can't make the correction. You're just making the assumption that they're a good translator and they're going to send what you want. That is minimized when you do what is said here in number 1. You meet with the translator in advance so that they understand exactly the message and the content of what you're about to deliver. So when you say it, they are quickly able to translate it and be correct. Right? Encourage what? The translator to do what?
Assess the audience prior to his or her sessions with you.
Translators share information about the audience background or interest.
Okay. So the more you know about the group, the more you can be respectful in what you're saying and how you do it. Because you could really create problems just by saying the wrong thing. Yeah, you say the wrong thing and all of a sudden it's dead. You lost them. Right? Because they have associated something with, for example, language, what we may consider profanity. In some cultures, they have adopted it as a norm. And maybe, let's say missionaries use language loosely, right? And they picked it up as a normal way of expression. It's just another adjective, right? But we know it to be a curse word, right? But they didn't know that. And so they've used it in a normal speech. But now they come into your culture and they use the language. And what do? Do you correct them?
Yes.
Here they're preaching now, and they use a curse word from the pulpit. What happens in the audience? Yeah, and all of a sudden the focus just shifted, right? From what was being the message to how could he say that? What kind of preacher is that? You see, and all kinds of judgments are being made simply because we do not understand what prompted the thinking and how he used certain words. You get it? So if we can feel it in our culture, how much more can others feel it when we go into their culture and say things that really just are not, they're inappropriate. Yeah? So the more we understand about the people and the culture, then the better we are able to communicate and be positive and effective in our evangelism. Right? Use the simplest language possible. If you're dealing with translation, certain words really, you're not here to just show how much knowledge you got, how many technical words you can spit out. Right? Keep it simple. Keep it simple. It's easier to be translated. And let the main essence of your message be communicated. Stick to the pertinent facts. Here again, all the inroads and the, I guess, the figures of speech, the things that you may know in your country that people can identify with and they will laugh off with you. But they don't know that over there, right? Because it's just foreign. You know what's going on the road. What's going on the road? Yeah? You don't know about that. Right? Keep it to the facts. Keep it to the point. Right? But if you know certain things of their speech and you really do know it, and then you can use it in a way that's meaningful to them, that helps. look at and speak at the audience, not the translator.
Yes.
Right? Because you still want a personal appeal. You're not speaking their language literally, but they can read your expressions.
Yes.
And they can feel your connection. And the translator fills in the gaps. But your personal, interpersonal relations allows good communication. Look at the speaker and at the audience. Look for nonverbal cues from the audience. Remember, the audience, customer, or business contact is your focus. Right?
Okay.
Yes. It's time for a break? Yeah, let's take a break.